Have you ever felt like no matter how much mindset work you do, how much healing you pursue, or how much effort you put into personal growth, you're still struggling? What if I told you that struggle isn't just a circumstance or a mindset or something that you go through, but an emotion that's physically stored in your body, just like grief and fear or shame? And that's why no amount of external success or positive thinking is going to free you from it, because it needs to be released somatically. Today, I'm going to break down why struggle has been normalized and conditioned into everyday life, into every body, why that normalization is keeping you stuck in lower realities where you constantly struggle. And I'm also going to share how you can finally release struggle from your mind, from your body, so that you can experience reality shifts and achieve your highest health and happiness with greater ease and joy. I'm also going to share my personal discovery that struggle is more than just a situation or a mindset or perception, but a real emotion, distinct emotion stored in the body. We don't need to struggle to heal. We don't need to struggle to succeed, to spiritually awaken or ascend. We don't need to struggle to get anything that we want in life. And it's time to question where those normalized beliefs and narratives come from, so that you can freely embrace and embody a life of ease, of joy, and true sovereignty. Welcome to The Simple Source, a paradigm-shifting space where self-love, healing, spirituality, and personal growth are redefined. If you've been told healing takes years, that abundance must be attracted, or that transformation requires struggle, you haven't been told the truth. I'm Linda Villines, a certified trauma-informed holistic coach, author, and spiritual guide. After healing myself from chronic conditions, complex trauma, and lack, not by following traditional frameworks, but by creating my own, I'm now teaching you to love, heal, and free yourself, mind, body, and soul, so you can reclaim your highest health, happiness, and potential with joy and ease. Each week, we go beyond surface-level self-help and into the real mechanics of transformation. If the traditional paths to healing and spirituality haven't produced the changes you want in the life you desire, you're in the right place. You were never meant to struggle or wait for what is already yours. Let's get started with today's episode. So let's talk about why struggle has been so misunderstood. Struggle is one of the most unquestioned experiences in human existence. It is so deeply woven into our reality that no one stops to ask, like, what if struggle isn't what we think it is? Is struggle necessary? What if struggle isn't really just a situation, but it's more than that? It's an emotion that lives in the body, just like grief or fear. And that's why so many people continue to struggle despite investing in quote unquote doing the work, is because they've cognitively understood it, but they haven't physically and somatically released it. For generations, struggle has been framed in three primary ways: as a condition, meaning something that people go through, like hardships due to external circumstances, etc. It's framed as a mindset, a belief system that can be changed, right? If you use positive thinking and you heal your beliefs. And it's also perceived as a circumstance, something that you have to overcome, something that is unavoidably difficult that you have to overcome. But I've recently discovered that those perspectives actually miss the deeper truth. Struggle isn't just something that we experience conditionally, externally, or mentally. Struggle is an emotion that is stored like any other emotion in the body, in the nervous system, until we release it. So I was doing an emotional release meditation, which I do on average 5 times a week. I have a very committed relationship to emotional health for a long time. And so that's why I'm very confident in this discovery, because I relate with my emotions. I'm in touch with my emotions. I don't intellectualize my emotions. I don't suppress my emotions. I feel the fuck out of my emotions, not in an overwhelming, disempowered way. It's very intentional. It's just for, 20 minutes, 5 days a week, where I allow my body to feel, to release, to let go of the emotions that I have been suppressing, for 40 years. And this is not just me. This is like literally everybody, unless you were raised with highly emotionally intelligent, extremely emotionally mature, and emotionally available and attuned caregivers. And that's like not very many people, because that has to be a consistent situation in your life in order for that to be conditioned in you and your subconscious and your nervous system. And 9 times out of 10, people are not emotionally mature, not emotionally intelligent, don't have emotional health, aren't emotionally regulated. They have judgments about their emotions. They have fears about their emotions. They suppress their emotions. They have misunderstandings about what emotions are. This is most people. And yes, I'm not most people. Healing is my expertise, and I'm deeply committed to emotional health because I understand how fundamental it is to authentic healing, to lifelong authentic health and happiness, and to my ability to show up in my everyday as my highest, most authentic, most empowered self. So I was doing an emotional release meditation, as I usually do. And my intention for this meditation was to release struggle in terms of grieving struggle and my experiences of struggle, the struggles that have prevented me from experiencing all the things that I've wanted to experience in my life and all the situations that I have struggled in. That was my intention, was to release the programmed struggle that I lived with my whole life, and then to grieve the joy and the ease that I didn't get to experience because of all of that struggle, because of believing in all of that struggle. Meaning believing that it was necessary, not in a conscious way. Of course, this is all deep subconscious conditioning. And in that grieving, because grief is just an extension of love, I gave love to all of those parts of myself that struggled, that believed that I had to struggle to learn, to succeed, to be seen, to be loved, to heal my body, to exist in my healthiest, most authentic body and life. And then I felt it. Struggle, the emotion, not the experience, not the grief, not the frustration. It was a very distinct, felt emotional pain in my body. It was a distinct feeling, and it was not helplessness. It was not a mix of emotions. It was a very clear, distinct, singular emotion of struggle. And I realized then that, oh my gosh, this is the emotion of struggle that I'm feeling viscerally in my body right now, because I'd made myself emotionally available to the concept of struggle, to grieving the struggle. And in the beginning of that meditation, it was like there was a bit of a distance, because normally when I do an intentional emotional release meditation, I'm immediately because I'm so attuned to my emotions, I'm immediately there and I'm feeling what I need to feel. But for whatever reason, at the start of that meditation, I was really having to sort of coerce the emotional response. That's why then I shifted to the grieving of the loss of the joy. And then as I started to give myself love, that was the opening. That was the opening for my body to go, here it is, actually. This is what you want to feel. And it was struggle as a distinct feeling, as an emotion, not a perception of the experience of what I was struggling with. It was not my remembrance or recall. It was not a cognitive thing. It was in my body. And the more I leaned into that feeling of struggle, the distinct feeling of that pain in my body, the more my body released it. It was like the floodgates opened, because I had finally connected my mind and my body in a coherent way that had never happened before, because we're conditioned that struggle is a cognitive perception. It's a mindset. It's a situation. It's a condition. But it's also an emotion. We hold in our bodies just like fear, just like loneliness, just like desperation, just like longing. If desperation is an emotion, if longing is an emotion, then like you guys, doesn't it make sense that struggle is an emotion? I mean, I could feel the feeling of struggle being very distinct from grief, from desperation, from longing, from frustration. And it was a massive whole mind and body aha moment and massive release then. And I realized afterward, this is why so many people feel like they're endlessly battling with struggle. It's not because they haven't done the trauma healing work. It's not like they haven't invested in healing at all. It's because they haven't released it from their bodies, because an emotion needs to be released. And struggle is such a common narrative. And it's just been accepted as a condition and a mindset and a perception and an experience, and it has yet to be categorized or defined as an emotion as well. Because from an academic perspective, this is probably what an academic person would say, is that struggle isn't a primary emotion. It's an experience rather than an innate biological response. You know, primary emotion is like fear, joy. They would say that struggle isn't hardwired, but it arises from effort. It arises from resistance. That's probably what an academic person would say. They would say that struggle requires your perception of difficulty, and then that's why it's not an automatic emotional response. They would say it's probably a mix of frustration and determination, stress, fear. They would say that struggle is cognitive, not emotional, and not a standalone emotion. But what I now understand is, hey, those people are probably not, I would bet like so much money that those people and those academic fields that are analyzing the pathology of emotions aren't actually doing the fucking emotional work. They're not in their bodies. They're like intellectualizing emotions, which are inherently a physical thing. And so if you're perceiving something like struggle from a purely cognitive place and you're not taking into account, well, this is how we've been teaching struggle, dealing with struggle, and psychological frameworks, and yet people continue to struggle. Like, I'm the person that's like, something is amiss here. People have been teaching the same frameworks and the same perceptions of this concept of this normalized narrative, and yet like people aren't healing. People continue to struggle. It's so normalized. And why is that? We don't need to struggle. Struggle is not necessary for anything in life. And what needs to happen is we all have to start questioning, why are these common narratives perpetuated that don't serve me, that make me feel disempowered, like I just have to live with struggle all my life, despite the efforting of healing, despite the efforting of doing the work. And for me, I reject that. If something isn't working, we have to examine why. And just instead of just accepting, well, that's just what it is, and struggle is struggle. I'm like, no, we don't have to accept that. And I understand now that struggle is a deeply embodied emotional imprint. It's also, the more that I recognized, oh, it's emotion. It's an emotion. I also recognize it's an inherited and conditioned emotional state that exists independent of your immediate circumstances. Like longing, struggle may not be biologically hardwired like fear or joy, but it can function as a standalone emotion due to emotional conditioning, which is, when you experience repeated hardship early in your life, that ingrains struggle as an automatic emotional response. So then it does become biologically automatic, the feeling of struggle. Also, inherited trauma, which is just trauma that gets passed down from generation to generation, that shapes your emotional patterns. Like that, no one is disputing that anymore. And struggle is such a huge part of the trauma narrative. And so, of course, that's not just an epigenetic thing that gets passed down. Of course, it's an emotional pattern. Of course it is. The embodied experience of struggle isn't just conceptual. It is felt in your body. And the more that you open yourself to that, the more that you're going to be able to release it, and the more that you are going to be able to release yourself from the experience of struggle. Because what happens is we all have stored emotional memory, right? Even without the external hardship, the body holds that imprint. Your body, your nervous system is holding that imprint of the emotion of struggle. because you haven't released it as an emotion. And that's why you continue to experience it. You continue to feel it as a felt emotional state. And so while struggle doesn't necessarily fit into the classical definitions of an emotion, it is a lived and deeply real emotional experience, one that does transcend cognition and that does arise from the body's memory and conditioning. The body's memory and conditioning, not just the brain, but the nervous systems. So struggle is an emotional imprint. It's an emotional state. It's not just a mindset. Just like fear, just like grief, just like shame, struggle has a very distinct emotional frequency that I felt, that I was attuned to, that when I leaned into it, it released in a way that I had never experienced before, because prior to it, I was just understanding the struggle as the experience, not as a physical, emotional, nervous system imprint that was trapped in my body. And so struggle isn't just a reaction to difficult circumstances. It is a felt experience. That's why you say it feels like I'm struggling, because you are feeling the emotion of struggling. And then that means that, of course, it's embedded into your nervous system. And so often how people try to overcome the experience of struggle, of hardship, of not getting what they want, of so much efforting in their life, is they try to heal the mindset. But if your body is still holding on to the somatic imprint of struggle, meaning it is in your nervous system, it is in your muscles, it's in your body, then your nervous system is going to continue to recreate struggle in your life. Struggle, when deeply ingrained as an emotional imprint, it operates beyond conscious awareness. That's what emotional imprinting is. You're going to learn this when you do the deep dive into trauma healing. You understand that. That's why nervous system healing is so fundamental for authentic healing. That shit is in your body. It's not just a mindset. It's a felt state, emotional state that is stored in your body, that is woven into your nervous system. And that's why you can do all the healing work. You can make all the shifts and transformations in your beliefs and thoughts, and you can even change your external circumstances and still feel and experience struggling in your life. Even when you have money, even when you have success, even when you're in a relationship that you want, you can still struggle, because even if conceptually you have resolved the mindset of, oh, I don't need to struggle because this was me, like my entire life. This is why there's such a huge aha moment. Like, I'm so anti-struggle. I have released struggle, the notion, the concept, the idea of struggle years and years and years ago. And yet I have continued to struggle in many areas of my life, despite investing deeply, consistently for over a decade in my own healing, and also like deep study of trauma, of mental health, emotional health, healing in general, not as a casual thing, but as like a near obsessive thing. So I am educated. So it makes no sense that I would continue to struggle. Do you see where I'm getting at here? It's like nobody has questioned this, and I am questioning this and going, that makes no sense. We're missing something, and this is what we're missing. Until struggle is processed at the somatic level, meaning your nervous system, your body has released it, then has recalibrated from the release of it, you can reframe in your mind the concept of struggle all you want, but it's still going to remain an emotional baseline. That's why authentic healing requires more than cognitive healing. That's why I did a whole episode about why talk therapy is not enough. Authentic healing, holistic healing, because you're not just a mind. You're not just a mind. Your brain is not the only part of you. Healing requires physical release, somatic release, nervous system regulation, recalibration, embodied emotional integration. So what I felt in that emotional release meditation was that struggle has a very distinct emotional frequency and felt sensation. I can try to describe it as the pain of effort that's not met with ease, the pain of resistance against what you want, the feeling of difficulty as an emotional state, not just an external reality. It's the pain of feeling like you never had a chance, but you know that you need to keep trying. And even all those descriptions, they don't even do justice, because you cannot really truly describe an emotion accurately, because then you're intellectualizing. You're mentally processing the emotion. What you really need to do in order to understand an emotion is to feel. And that's why academia has just like missed the boat on this one, because a lot of academics are not emotional folks. That's a large, broad generalization, but I'm going to make it. Because struggle is an emotion, of course it's going to show up in your body. So I've thought about this too. Struggle then shows up in your body, and your posture and the way that you breathe and your voice and your movement patterns. And the more that you think about that, the more it's going to make sense to you. It's going to show up. It shows up in your body. How could it not? All your emotions physically show up in your body. So struggle does too. It's a part of why you hold your body the way that you hold your body. It's the way that you brace yourself physically for life. It's because of that held, suppressed feeling of struggle. And because that emotion hasn't been fully released, struggle hasn't been fully released, meaning it's stuck in your body, stuck in your nervous system. And that's why people can also become addicted to struggle. The mind and the nervous system, again, just recreate what they know. So now I want to talk a little bit about the neuroscience of why struggle becomes stuck in the body. So the human nervous system is wired for survival. That's like priority number one still. So when struggle is repeated over time, meaning the experience of it and then the emotional conditioning of it, okay, that where it then becomes an automatic emotional response or state, then over time, what happens is the brain forms neural pathways that then reinforce struggle as a baseline emotional state. When you understand unresolved trauma, you understand this. This is how you get stuck in emotional states. When you don't release them, your brain literally just like creates neural pathways for you to stay in that emotional state. So when your emotions are felt, but you haven't fully integrated the emotion and the release of it, that emotion isn't fully liberated. That emotion still lives in your energetic and physical body as an imprint. And this is why a lot of people have a lot of misunderstandings about emotional release. It's like, I'm crying, and I'm crying, but it's not an intentional. You are not emotionally regulated. Like emotional regulation doesn't mean I'm emotionless and I don't feel. I'm chill and neutral all the time. That's not what emotional regulation means. Emotional regulation means that when an emotion comes up, you're present with that emotion. You're able to feel it. You're able to identify where it lives in your body. You're able to release it. And you're also able to understand why the emotion has arisen. That's the integration, okay, of the whole emotional release and feeling and integration process. But most people either intellectualize their emotions, so they're not really feeling. There isn't a coherence between the mind and the body. They're just thinking through their emotions, and then that means they're largely suppressing them, even though the emotion is there. It's like, I don't want to be angry, though I'm angry, so I'm just going to release like 5% of my anger because anger is not an acceptable emotion. And this is all happening in an unconscious way, but that anger hasn't been integrated in your mind and your body, and it certainly then hasn't been released. So, of course, that imprint is going to remain. The imprint of that anger is going to remain in your body, meaning it's your nervous system, like in your physical body, and also energetically in you. Modern trauma pioneers like Bessel van der Kolk and Peter Levine, whom I wholly respect and whose work has been fundamental to my own understanding of my trauma, they have proven that emotions like fear and grief like physically get stored and stuck in the body. And even emerging research in neuroscience supports the idea that emotions have a physical signature in the body. So again, that's why when struggle is inherited, right, through your parents who did not heal their struggles, did not release it and their traumas, mentally, emotionally, physically, they then pass it on to you. It's not just a personal experience, and it's an emotional imprint that is passed on through generation, living in the body's memory. And this explains, and I consider this, and I understood, like, this is the whole family lineage experiencing the same struggle generation after generation, despite their external circumstances changing. So I'm an immigrant. I was not born here. I was born in a refugee camp on the border of Thailand and Cambodia while my parents were fleeing the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot regime in Cambodia, that awful genocide. That was my birth, okay? And so my whole entire family are immigrants. And despite my parents doing well for themselves and establishing a new life, and my brother and I having now grown up as Americans, because we moved here when I was 1 year old, both my brother and I still, quote unquote, struggle in our life, despite our external circumstances changing. And there has to be a reason for that, particularly for me, someone who has spent 15 years on a healing journey. It's like, I've done my healing work. So there should logically be no reason. And like, when I say healing work, I mean like authentic, deep dive, like real showing up every day for my healing, for my trauma, for my inner child, with my shadows, for all parts of myself. So logically, it makes no sense if struggle is just a perception and experience that I would still struggle. That would imply that I haven't cognitively healed it, which I have. But struggle, again, has never been explicitly recognized as its own stored emotional imprint. And that's why we all continue to move through life with this giant missing key until now, because I have discovered the feeling, the emotional of struggle in my body. And I'm officially claiming that I have discovered that struggle is a distinct emotion and it needs to be treated as such. Even in the trauma healing world, struggle has been overlooked as an emotion. And even within somatic work, struggle is just seen as a byproduct of other emotions, such as fear. But struggle has its own distinct frequency because it is a distinct emotion. People aren't just trapped in circumstances because they're trapped in a struggle mindset or they haven't healed their traumas. People are actually carrying the emotional energy of struggle in their bodies, in their physical bodies, and in their energetic bodies. And that explains why people can do deep trauma healing work just like me, inner child healing work like me, and achieve massive mindset shifts like me, and yet still struggle. Struggle is not just the result of trauma. It's not just the result of your circumstances. It is an emotional signature that exists on its own, and until it is somatically released, it's going to continue to shape your identity and your reality. Most healing approaches, they focus on reframing the narrative or understanding the root cause. But that understanding alone, that's not going to clear the emotional imprints and energy from your body. And I teach this in my program. Knowing is not the same thing as healing. You can intellectually understand something. You can intellectualize your emotion. You can intellectually understand struggle in your life. But if your body is still holding on to the emotion of struggle, you're going to continue to experience struggle and project it into your life because it is part of your energetic body and physical body and thus nervous system state. And that's why you've probably thought, why do I keep struggling? Like no matter how much inner work I do, I've healed my trauma. So why do I feel like life is still so hard? Why does everything still feel like an uphill battle? And the answer is very simple. It's because struggle is still an emotional imprint in your body. So until struggle is recognized as an emotion that needs to be physically released, people are going to remain trapped in that endless cycle of recreating it. Not because you're failing, not because you haven't shifted your mindset, not because you don't cognitively understand struggle, but because your body has not yet been freed of the emotional imprint of struggle itself. And from a somatic psychology and even deeper trauma perspective, Peter Levine's work has revealed how fear and helplessness gets trapped in the body. And polyvagal theory explains how survival states condition the nervous system, and yet struggle is just overlooked as a specific stored emotion. So we all need to recognize that struggle remains an issue, not because we haven't fully recognized it cognitively, but because we have yet to fully recognize its holistic impact beyond the cognitive perception and understanding of it. We all need to become more emotionally intelligent, more emotionally mature, and evolve emotionally. Emotional health is truly the key to mind, body, soul, ultimate freedom, ultimate vibrancy. And the more that we understand that, the more that everyone can be liberated. It's about the human evolution, not just the personal evolution, because this isn't a personal issue. It's a paradigm issue. It's just no one until me has been like, wait a second, I felt that. That wasn't grief. That wasn't fear. That wasn't desperation. That wasn't frustration. That was the feeling of struggle. And, awe just recently was identified as a core emotion. So let's get on the bandwagon here, folks. Struggle is another emotion. It's an emotional state. It's an emotional imprint that needs recognition because everybody struggles needlessly. It has been so normalized, the narrative, the acceptance of struggle, because it's been framed as a condition, not a feeling. People are taught to overcome struggle rather than recognize it as something that is also stored within the body that needs to be released. Society glorifies struggle. Struggle is seen as noble. Struggle is seen as necessary. It's just a part of succeeding in life. It's just a part of healing. It's a part of personal growth. I say this over and over again. That's such a limiting belief. Healing does not need to be a struggle. And yet so many people believe that. It's just this normalized narrative and acceptance that, life is a struggle. Getting what you want in life is a struggle. I did a whole episode about the everything life is a hard mentality. I just hear it all the time. And I talk about this in my book too, but that is not our natural state of existence. It is not natural for us to continually struggle, for everything in life to be hard. Our natural state is actually harmony, is ease. It is not hardship. It is not suffering. It is not struggling. Struggle has just been lumped in with challenges, with adversity, with hardship. But if you think about it, if despair, if desperation, if longing are emotions, then struggle has to be an emotion too. And it's not a combination of emotions. Longing is not a combination of emotions. When you are emotionally intelligent and mature and in touch with your emotions, meaning you are not just in touch with your emotions, but you're in touch with your emotions in your body, and you do emotional release work like nearly every single day like I do, then you are in a very coherent and attuned and empowered relationship with your emotions. And when you get to that place where you are like living in an emotional state, not to say that I'm emotional, but I am like fully present with my emotions. And when I do intentional emotional release work, I'm intentionally releasing my emotions, not in a general way, but in very specific ways regarding very specific emotions, regarding very specific experiences in my life. I've been doing this for years. So I hope that now that I'm sharing this with you, that you also feel awakened to have that profound somatic realization and experience for yourself, because this is key and huge. Because struggle is just so universally accepted. It's just gone unquestioned. Just like trauma responses were once seen as personality traits, struggle has been mistaken for an inevitable part of life. Why? Why has it been so deeply embedded into the human experience? We've got to evolve. We have to start questioning, why is the struggle narrative so common? Why is it so accepted? Why does everything in life have to be hard? Why? And the answer is that human consciousness has been manipulated for tens of thousands of years. In the Earth's energetic field, what some would call the planetary grid or the morphogenetic field, has been hijacked. It has been distorted. It's time for real talk. That distortion of the Earth's matrix energetic field, that distortion was designed to keep humanity trapped in cycles of struggle, trapped in cycles of suffering, fear, scarcity, limitation. So Earth was originally intended to be a realm of a planet of expansion and creation and self-realization. But over millennia, a control matrix or control system was imposed. So think about it as a web of inserted programs in the Earth's energetic field that promote struggle, that promote disempowerment and separation into the collective human experience. And so that distorted energetic infrastructure influences human consciousness on every level, because as a human being, you're living on Earth, and that means fear and scarcity and suffering are passed down as normal realities. Because for tens and tens and tens of thousands of years, those distorted influences that are part of the Earth's energetic matrix have been there. And so struggle just became an unquestioned narrative with the sole purpose of keeping you bound to limitation, keeping you feeling disempowered to ensure that you remain small and disconnected from your true power. Because that control matrix system, that distortion of the Earth's energetic matrix, it wants you to be oppressed. So struggle is an oppressive emotional anchor in the distorted energy field of the Earth. Just like trauma imprints onto an individual's nervous system, struggle has been embedded as a distortion in the Earth's energetic matrix. And so that keeps people looping in repetitive struggle patterns and narratives across lifetimes, across generations, and even entire civilizations. And it's why so many people feel attached to and trapped in struggle, even when their external conditions and circumstances change. Because it's not just an individual issue, it is a planetary imprint. Because fear, because disempowerment are essential for control. And that's what those distortions, those distorted programmings that have been embedded over tens and tens of thousands of years, that's what they're for. It's to keep people in fear and to make people feel disempowered so that humanity does not evolve, so that souls think that they have to keep reincarnating on Earth and keep revisiting this planet with this distorted energy matrix system that promotes fear and disempowerment and limitation. Because when people believe in struggle and they believe it's unavoidable and necessary in life, they accept limitation as a fundamental part of reality. And then that ensures that they never question their own power. And that ensures that they always stay disconnected from their highest potential and highest truths and their highest selves, with their multidimensional, limitless, completely sovereign being. And that ensures that people are easily traumatized. Because if people are too busy struggling to survive, they're never going to have the energetic capacity to actually awaken and remember their true nature. And then when people internalize struggle, they govern their own consciousness by the parameters of struggle. And that just reinforces the very system of oppression that influences people and keeps everyone feeling small and disempowered. Nearly every system on Earth reinforces struggle to keep humanity disempowered. You have to recognize that. So if struggle is an emotional imprint that has been normalized, that has been conditioned, that has been passed down for generations and generations, then we have to ask, who is actually benefiting from this? Who's benefiting from you struggling? And why has struggle been so deeply ingrained into every aspect of human life? And the answer is that struggle is, again, not just an individual experience. It's collective, it's planetary, it's systemic. It's a global constraint that has been intentionally reinforced through politics, through religion, through economics, through education, and even spirituality. Yes, it has been woven into the very fabric of human society to keep people in fear, to keep people in survival mode, and to keep people feeling disconnected from their true power. The political system uses struggle as a mechanism of control. I mean, we all know that. There are so many corrupt governments that thrive on control. And one of the easiest ways to control people is to keep them in a constant state of struggle. We've been in endless wars. We are living just cycles of the same shit. That's history. We are not learning. Endless wars, political division, social unrest, they're not just byproducts of human nature. You can say that, just humans are violent. But are we though? Are we innately violent? Does a baby innately want to kill another baby? I'm going to say no. But again, these are unquestioned narratives. Oh, it's just human nature to go to war. It's just human nature, human nature. But again, I say this in my book, it's not. Our human nature, the human natural state is harmony. And so, politics is part of that struggle, control, oppressive influence and system. Because if people are just locked in fear and struggle, they're too exhausted to question the system. Even economic systems promote struggle as a permanent state of scarcity. The whole global economic system is designed to keep people perpetually struggling by reinforcing the illusion of scarcity and hierarchy. When people are locked into financial struggle, they don't have the time, they don't have the energy, they don't have the freedom to question reality or to step into higher levels of consciousness and being, because their survival is like a high stakes situation every day. And religion promotes struggle as a virtue and as a path to redemption. So many religious teachings glorify struggle. They glorify suffering and sacrifice as spiritual necessities. The idea that struggle brings redemption has conditioned people to accept hardship as part of their spiritual journey, rather than recognizing that it's just a distorted influence that can be released. Instead of empowering people to realize their inherent divinity and co-creative power, so many religious systems teach that enduring struggle is a test of faith and that you are separate from the divine. And that keeps you feeling submissive, that keeps you feeling guilt-ridden and constantly seeking external validation instead of realizing that you are the source of your own liberation and divinity. And academia does the same thing, institutionalizing the struggle as a reality. The entire academic system is built on hierarchy, is built on competition and intellectual struggle. From a very early age, people are taught that knowledge is something that they have to fight to obtain through constant tests, through rigid grading systems, and an emphasis on perfect scores. It's a very perfectionistic system, academia, rather than fostering an innate and embodied intelligence. The scientific and psychological communities dismiss alternative healing, dismiss somatics and quantum energetic truths because they don't fit into the materialistic paradigms. And so mind-body healing, consciousness research, multidimensional perspectives that promote limitlessness are often bypassed. And that ensures that struggle remains the dominant paradigm and narrative. And the media and social narratives, they all propagate fear and hardship. And the media just feeds that struggle narrative daily. It's war, it's crisis, it's economic collapse, crime, weather disasters, left and right. Suffering just dominates headlines. So that constant bombardment of fear programs your nervous system into a survival mode that just reinforces you struggling as an unavoidable part of your life. Movies and TV shows and storytelling glorify that hero struggle, conditioning people to believe that hardship is the only path to success. It's romanticized. Struggle is romanticized in relationships, reinforcing the belief that love has to be hard, love is painful, love is filled with suffering before it is actually earned. That's a struggle narrative. And even the spiritual community promotes struggle as a gateway to enlightenment. We're not exempt. Even in spiritual circles, struggle is still very present because most teachings promote suffering as a necessary step to awakening. Concepts like the dark night of the soul, like karmic debts, suffering as purification, that all reinforces struggle as a prerequisite for your spiritual evolution and remembrance and awakening. But true spiritual awakening does not come from struggle. It comes from releasing struggle. That's the irony, friend. It comes from you releasing struggle and remembering that you are already enlightened. The idea that suffering is required for ascension or awakening is one of the biggest deceptions in human history. No one needs to struggle. It's just not an inherent part of life. It's a manufactured construct. Struggle is not something that humanity was ever meant to experience indefinitely, omnipresently in every single aspect of life. It's been deliberately woven into every system to keep people from realizing their true power. It is the ultimate tool of suppression. Because when you believe that you have to struggle, then you automatically limit yourself, your reality, and your experiences. So I invite you today to release the struggle narrative completely, to embrace ease, to embrace alignment, to embrace flow, because that is your natural state of being. Struggle is a false construct. It's designed to keep you focused on survival instead of realizing your highest potential and your higher states of consciousness, and to experiencing abundance and multidimensional magic with ease and with joy and with flow and harmony. And so the more that people wake up to this, that the entire system, like collective systems on this planet, want you to struggle so that the people and beings who want to be in control, who feed off your fear, that's what they want. But the moment that you wake up and you understand, hey, there's an influence here that I have not questioned and acknowledged in my life, and I don't need to be struggling, They actually, the true reality is like they actually have no control over you. It's all an illusion. It's just an energetic programming that you can immediately be released from the moment that you liberate yourself and reclaim your sovereignty. And the more that people do that, that energetic distortion is going to collapse and dissolve. Your liberation has to start with you recognizing that struggle is not natural. It's not an inherent part of your life. It's not necessary for anything. It's not necessary for you to learn. It's not necessary for you to heal. It's not necessary for you to grow. It's not necessary for you to love. It's not necessarily for you to remember your true and highest self. It's not necessary. That alone is going to automatically detach you from that control matrix system, all the influences that perpetuate fear and struggle and disempowerment and separation. The moment that you stop agreeing that struggle is a necessary part of your life, you disengage from that fear control system because it's not a prerequisite for growth. It's not a prerequisite for love or success. It's an oppressive part of the unchallenged programming that has distorted the Earth's energetic field for tens and tens and tens of thousands of years. When you understand that struggle has no power over you and that you are a complete sovereign being who decides how your life unfolds and what your life is, you release yourself from that influence. So now that you understand that struggle is a distorted narrative and an enforced emotional frequency through oppressive forces entrenched within this planet's energetic field and systems, the question then becomes, what then happens when you fully release struggle? What happens then? Once struggle is released from your body, it's released from your perceptions, it's released from your consciousness, your entire energetic baseline is going to shift because you are now liberated, friend. You're going to stop resonating with struggle. Your life and reality can then truly reorganize themselves to align with ease and flow and harmony and joy without energetic dissonance and disharmony. And when you liberate yourself from struggle, you're also liberating yourself from all of those distorted influences and the control systems that this planet's true potential in nature has been veiled by. So this isn't just a personal healing. When you liberate yourself from struggle, the struggle narrative, and when you release struggle from your body, the emotion from your body, you are contributing to the liberation of the planet and the oppressive influences and forces that have been keeping humanity in fear and survival mode. And that is how we expand into the new earth, not just for the spiritually awakened and attuned and evolved, but for every single person on this planet. So here's the revolutionary implication of my discovery and why I wanted to share this episode shortly after my realization is that if struggle is an emotion, it can be released. That means released from a mind-body perspective, not just a mindset perspective, because we are not just minds. We're not just brains. You have a body, you have a nervous system. And so you can then holistically heal. That's the key. You can then holistically heal. You can then truly integrate mind, body, struggle, release. Because you don't need to struggle to heal. You don't need to struggle to be loved. You don't need to struggle to reach your highest potential. And I hope that this changes everything about how you perceive your healing and your success and your personal growth and your spiritual evolution. Healing doesn't come from pushing through struggle. It comes from feeling. It comes from releasing and transmuting struggle at its root. So here are some steps to help you be fully free of struggle. So first, you have to really recognize it as an emotion. So just that alone, that acknowledgement alone is going to shift your experience, your lived experience with struggle and your perception of it, because it's not just a mindset. It's a body awareness and wisdom perception that you're shifting. And then, you have to identify where struggle lives in your body. Where do you physically feel the tension, the pain of struggle in your body? How does your body brace against ease? That's a really key question. I'll ask you again. How does your body brace against ease? Meaning, how do you physically resist ease? The next step is you have to release that struggle somatically. You can't think emotions away. You have to move. Emotions literally just means energy and motion. So breath work, movement, somatic exercises, all of that is going to be so key for truly being free of struggle. And, somatic exercises can be really simple, like shaking, deep crying, all of that releases emotions from your body. You can cry with empowerment and intention in a healing way, and you can cry from shame and guilt and feeling small. When you cry feeling small and ashamed that you're crying, that's not an emotional release. That's still you trapping the emotion in your body because you're withholding it, because you're layering negative emotions over your own emotional experience. So the emotion can't fully release from your body. And a lot of people cry that way. Like, I'm ashamed that I'm apologizing for crying. I'm so sorry I'm crying, but I'm crying. It's a physical release in a way. It's a physical release in a way, but it's not actually an integrated emotional release because you feel ashamed about your crying. So intentional, productive emotional release, which is what I teach in my program, and I have an podcast episode about this, is very different. It's intentional. It's not all day where you're lost in your emotions. It's very intentional. It's very distinct, and it's very purposeful and productive. And because struggle is connected to deep nervous system bracing, meaning releasing it entails unwinding the body's resistance to ease. And so that's why it's so important for you to release struggle productively as an emotion, because struggle is connected to deep nervous system bracing, meaning that when you release struggle, it allows your body to unwind its resistance to feeling ease. And the next step is you have to reinforce ease as your new emotional baseline. You've been conditioned to hold on to struggle. You've been conditioned to believe in struggle. And so now you need to train your nervous system to feel safe in ease. And that means integrating daily practices that reinforce you feeling at ease, that reinforce flow and emotional safety, you feeling safe in your body, you feeling safe in your world, you feeling safe experiencing a life that is easy. So this is my invitation for you to really be free of struggle, because it doesn't need to be a part of your reality. You can feel light and free and joyful. Life can be easy, on a daily basis. There is no reason to struggle. There's no reason for life to be hard. You do not deserve to be punished. You don't deserve to struggle. That's all part of the healing, is that's the cognitive aspect of it, understanding that struggle is part of a trauma narrative, and you have to heal that narrative and the trauma to understand that it's not a part of your identity. You don't deserve to struggle. You don't need it in your life. And then you have to fully somatically release it from your body. Then you are truly liberated. Now that you know, I hope that you give yourself full permission to be your full sovereign self, struggle-free. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope this episode awakened you, inspired you, and reminded you of what's possible when you love, heal, and free yourself and reclaim your highest truth and power. If this show has transformed or enlightened your self-love, growth, and healing journey, please save, and share this episode, and leave a positive review on Apple or Spotify. And subscribe to be reminded of new episodes. Your support is deeply appreciated and truly helps this show so much. And if today's episode resonated with you, don't stop here. Go deeper. My book, Unconditional, You Are Perfect As You Are, expands on these teachings and gives you the missing framework about self-love that no one is talking about. So get your copy today to start reading and loving yourself more. And if you're ready for the ultimate healing journey with daily instruction and guidance from me, I'd love to see you inside the Source membership, the only holistic and comprehensive step-by-step self-healing program that is proven to work. Remember, you were never meant to struggle or wait for what is already yours. It's time to claim everything you want and more. All the links are in the show notes. I'll see you next time.